Yes. Dear colleagues and friends, we're approaching to the opening of the session. Please take your seats. I declare the first part of session of 2026 of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe open. Welcome. Allow me to say a few words on the beginning. In 1960, Madame Anna Maria von Lofsdorp, leader of Danish parliamentary group here in this assembly, recognized in a resolution adopted by all parties that the Baltic states were temporarily occupied by the Soviet Union in 1940, but never belonging to the Soviet Union. Millions of people living under Soviet tyranny heard those words and struggled to throw off the yoke of tyranny and the occupation by communist Russia. Exactly after 35 years ago, second only to Iceland, Denmark recognized the independence of Lithuania as it extracted itself from the greatest communist empire in the world. And now, after 35 years, Putin is taking revenge against our Middle and East European successful revolt against communist regime in the 90s of the ruins of Soviet terror system and started the war of aggression against Ukraine. I think it's now for us in the very same chamber, after 66 years, to express our solidarity and support to Denmark and Greenland, and say loud and strong that is for the people of Greenland and Denmark to decide about their destiny. In 24, just a few years ago, we stood proudly in this very chamber to award Václav Havel Human Rights Prize to Maria Corina Machado. Madame Machado in the same years was awarded by Sakharov Prize of European Parliament. On that occasion, Maria Corina Machado could not be here in person to collect that prize and deliver her speech. I would like to invite the next president of our assembly and together with the Bureau to invite her at the earliest opportunity to address our assembly. The regimes of Vladimir Putin and Lukashenko, after Russian and Belarusian Democrats one by one killed, murdered, moved down from the streets in a prison, now Belarusians are working successfully in the platform, and now we will approve that Russian Democrats who spent years in prison and now they are outside Russia will walk in the platform together with us. Congratulations for years and years of all your efforts supporting them, and I see some of them on the balconies. I would like to express our remark, probably from our Middle European circles, how to be battle ready here on the European soil. The Baltic states and Poland have increased their military budget above 5% of national budget. Are our southern neighbors prepared to do the same? Are you ready to defend the values of this organization, our conventions, on our front line? Are you ready, dear friends, who are a little bit wider on other side, not of East Front side, to recommit yourself to future Ukrainian membership of the European Union? Are you ready to stand together with the heroic Ukrainian men and women currently defending all of Europe? I hope that this solidarity will cement all of us, not only countries on the front line. The temperature today in Kiev, Kharkiv, and Odessa, after 4 years of Russian war against Ukraine, is 12 degrees of minus. Electricity infrastructure have been bombed and rendered inoperable by Russia. Ukrainian cities, Kiev is in darkness. In Moscow and Petersburg are lit up, heated, cafes and bars are overcrowded. After 4 years of discussions, we have still not agreed to furnish Ukraine with long-range missiles. And coming about tomorrow. Tomorrow we will mark International Day remembering Holocaust victims and victims of Nazi terror against other ethnicities. My mother, Paulina, spent 4 years in Stuttgart concentration camp, being beaten every day. She was forced to collect children's dresses in front of gas chamber, and my grandfather was in Dachau. Having survived the camps, they managed to share their feelings of being left alone in those camps, having been forgotten. The Allies flew above the camps but did not bomb the fences. They could make out the face of the pilots of those aircraft, but the victims of tyranny and racism were not their business. So how we will fight against this loneliness today of the victims of terror, of dictatorships? The Council of Europe was born from the embers of the hatred and humanity of the Second World War. And now we cannot allow dictators to be more cooperative, more synchronized, that we are ourselves here. And actually not America first, not France first, not Poland first, not Lithuania first, but humanity and our solidarity first. That is the ground of our ideology. We should invite freedom fighters from Georgia, Cuba, Iran, to join our platform and raise their voices. We cannot allow fanatical religious regimes like Khomeini to usurp the power. We are with Iranian people. The state should be based on secular and democratic basis and separation of powers. And if I will be in the Nobel Prize Committee, allow me to say Secretary General of our Parliamentary Assembly and our Secretary General, I will be asking Nobel Prize Committee to nominate Zelensky for Nobel Prize. Freedom is not an esoteric concept born of poetry. Freedom and democracy should be defended on the battlefield. And I take this opportunity of thanking outgoing President Theodoros Rousopoulos, who shifted the concept of freedom from Athenian democratic heritage to that of Sparta, and trusting that our new president will carry that message forward. We are underway to be more Spartanians, having Athens, the open society and democratic heritage. So, Slava Ukraini, for your freedom and our freedom, and merci for your attention. Thank you. Thank you. So, first item on our agenda is examination of credentials of new members. The names of the members and substitutes are in document 16330. If no credentials are challenged, the credential will be ratified. Yes, sir. Are any credentials challenged? That's my question. Yes, I will do now. Yeah. Sir, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I am challenging the credentials of Austrian delegation based on the fact that it may violate the principle of gender equality, that is Rule 6.2b. Currently, 66% representatives of Austria represent just one sex, while we should be striving for 40%. While we are having this rule firmly entering into force since January 27, we are about to elect our next president, and the leading candidate is from this delegation. The president's term is for 2 years. Therefore, I believe this must be cleared now because it might affect delegation for the future. So I would like it to be referred to the Rules Committee and to the Equality Committee. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw that challenge under Rule 7. I'm forced to cite that. Is reminded Assembly that under Rule 7, a challenge must be supported by at least 10 members.
Okay.
Thank you, colleagues. It seems at least from five national delegations. Five presented in the chamber. Would those members supporting the challenge, please? It was done. Raise your hands. And
This will be referred to without debate to the committee.
yes, the challenge has the support required by the rules of procedures, just declaring that it was exceeded the numbers, and according to credentials of Austrian delegation by you colleagues challenged, are referred without debate to the Committee on Rules of Procedures, Immunities and Institutional Affairs. Okay, the committee shall report within 24 hours. It will also be referred to the Committee on Equality and Non-Discrimination for opinion. Accepted. I remind you that members whose credentials are challenged may sit provisionally with the same rights as other Assembly members until the Assembly has reached a decision. However, those members shall not vote in any proceedings relating to the examination of credentials which concern them. That is the frame of rules. Thank you, it was accepted. So,
Any other challenges?
it's about other challenges, dear friends. Please, raise your, stand up, please. The floor is open for you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I will speak in German. Sehr geehrter Herr Vorsitzender, gestützt auf die Regel 2.2. Literat A fechte ich die Akkreditierung der polnischen Delegation an. Der Präsident des polnischen Parlaments hat ohne triftigen Grund die Ernennung eines der von der Partei Recht und Gerechtigkeit vorgeschlagenen Kandidaten, Herrn Michael Woos, abgelehnt und den Sitz unbesetzt gelassen. Parlamentspräsidenten sind nicht befugt, über die Wahl von Abgeordneten oder deren Stellvertretern zu entscheiden. Dies obliegt den jeweiligen politischen Gruppierungen. Daher verstößt die Zusammensetzung der gesamten Delegation gegen den Grundsatz der fairen Repräsentation gemäß Regel 6.2a und ich ersuche, dass der Geschäftsordnungsausschuss sich damit befasst.
Danke herzlich. Ja, gleich. Ich werde eine Antwort geben. Ja, was? Das one, ja?
It's again.
The same. Ja, dann möchte ich betonen, dass wir müssen dieselbe Prozedur durchgehen, wenn Sie werden nicht dagegen sein. Und darüber ernenne ich, dass wir müssten wieder diese 10 liebe Kollegen aufrufen. I just would like to ask 10 members from 5 delegations to support the current proposal.
Okay.
Ja, danke herzlich. I think it's enough. Ja, dann werde ich annoncieren, dass the challenge has the support required by the rules and procedures. Das war genug. According to the credential of the Polish delegation member, are referred without debate to the Committee on Rules and Procedures, Immunities and Institutional Affairs. The committee shall report within 24 hours if possible. And the same, we will be referred to the Committee on Equality.
No, not in this case.
No, in this case, well, it's only about one member, yes?
Yeah.
Well, it's about one member. We are not referring to the Committee of Equality and Non-Discrimination. Sorry for that. Thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a little bit more easy. It's we are trying to say.
There are more challenges, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Just I was pushing. I was rushing to part of Theodorus. Please.
I have a point of order to make. I see we are continuing with the agenda, but I want to point out that Rule 5.2 admits no discretion. While the provisional president is in the chair, no debate and no speeches are allowed except on the credentials or the election of the presidents. Mrs. Bayer is not a full member yet. She was and remains a substitute for now. The challenge to the Austrian credentials must therefore be referred immediately to the Rules Committee. Any attempt to proceed to a vote before that examination is a violation of the rules of procedure.
Sir, thank you so much for your extended remark, but it was your opinion, but it's not rules of order related to our agenda. I should apologize, sir, but you were...
Any other credentials?
Any credentials? We are talking about credentials now. Friends?
No.
No. We are continuing. I'm sorry, I should be coming back to our points. The other credentials set in document 16330 are now ratified. I welcome our new colleagues. Sir, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcomed. So now we are going to the ceremony for the outgoing president of the Assembly, our dear, dear friend, Theodorus Rousopoulos. Dear Theodorus, on behalf of all of us, I would like to express our deep gratitude for our and yours, actually yours leadership and dedication to the spirited dialogue of cooperation you have brought to this chamber. In those difficult time of challenges and threats, you have guided Assembly with clarity, fairness, and wisdom. Under your presidency, our debates have been conducted with respect and dignity. Our differences have been managed with finesse and diplomacy, and our common values have been defended tirelessly. We wish you every success in the next chapter of your life, and now leave to the Secretary General of the Assembly to convey the operation of the Presidential Committee and our Assembly from all of us to you. And I would like to say that I am very happy that you have beat me during the elections. Thank you. In our group. I'm really happy how you handled through years our operations here and how you were behind our basic values. Theo, it's your time. You were informal and formal together. That's not so easy. Thank you. Next, we are expecting probably to have the group opinion. Yes?
Mr. Schwab.
Yes. Oh. Herr Schwabe, bitte.
Mr. President, if I may, so Mr. Acting President, Mr. Now former President, I have to say, I don't know how to put 2 years in 1 minute. It's a little bit difficult. But for sure, colleagues, all you know, and you see several examples how challenging the times are, undoubtedly. And the Council of Europe was usually founded not to go through such challenging times. This was the idea, to prevent it at the end. But now we are there. And when we are there, we need really someone who do an outstanding job and who present us in an outstanding way, and you did it. You did it, and if someone reads your book, they can see that it was a little bit unexpected in a special situation, but at the end, a lot of things in your life happen unexpected, and then you can do the best, and you did it. You gave the Parliamentary Assembly visibility, not only through the Olympic torch. You gave us dignity and significance, and in difficult times, through the interplay of the Council of Europe's institutions, you also gave us strength and decisiveness. All this with your own unique style, and we all know it, friendly and approachable, but also very clear, with clear goals and paths to achieving them, and with a love for detail and the right tone. Dear Theodoros, we owe you a great debt of gratitude, and knowing that here are other former presidents, I would like to say in the Olympic way, it was the best Olympic Games ever. Thank you so much. Sas Efraristopoli. Thank you so much, dear President.
Now, Ms. Pablo Hispan, in the name of APP, please.
Thank you, President Zingeris. Dear President Theodoros, it's not an easy task today, this farewell ceremony, because you are not only a president of the PACE member of the EPP, you are also a friend. The words thank you do not suffice. We all know that the time that you have dedicated to your presidency, the personal engagement and your commitment in terms of time and energy. We all know that the number of sensitive issues raised during your mandate have required the wisdom of Solon, the patience of a saint of Athos, and the diplomatic skills or tireless negotiator at Dora Baikoyannis, and the ability of a Pericles. We are living in times of tragedy, as we have seen also today, as happened also in ancient Greece. In the struggle between the loss of the humans and the loss of the city, you have compromised to get both humanity and citizenship. It is said that the difference between a politician and a statesman is that a politician looks to the next generation election and the statesman looks to the next generation. With you, we can say that we are dwarfs standing on the shoulders of a giant, because you have been one of the giants in the history of this organization. In closing, my President, let me thank also to your family, and particularly your wife, also for your team, your Greek team, and the team from the Council of Europe, who have supported you in your work and led you to the Assembly during those 2 years. We return you to the arms of your family with some additional millage, but we trust that we have been a careful honor. Thank you, Theodoros.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pablo. And now, Zsolt Nemeth, in the name of Conservative Group, please. Sir, the floor is open.
Okay. It seems to work. Dear Theodoros, dear colleagues, I tried to identify why I like our President, Theodoros Rossopoulos. And I suggest you to do that. Why do you like him? Because I'm convinced that most of you like him. First of all, I like you, Theodoros, because I feel the positivity and kindness in your personality. Secondly, I like you because you have a creativity in your activity. For example, you have decided to have a Council of Europe prize for human rights documentaries, which was a very original idea. Then I like you because you are a consensus builder. We are sitting here, the 5 different political groups, president. Sometimes we are fighting with each other, but you have been able to build consensus. What is that? It is a diplomatic skill, which I highly appreciate. And finally, I would like to mention your humor. because your humor is also very important. We shouldn't take things too seriously. We have to stick to the rules, yes, but we shouldn't take things far too seriously. And I wonder, dear colleagues, what was the reason for identifying these characters in our president? For a long time, I didn't know. But in September, he invited his male colleagues to the Athos island, to the Mount Athos, to the Orthodox monasteries. And there, I have to tell you, had my major cultural and spiritual experience of the year, because I did not meet just a very unique Greek culture, I would say civilization, and art as well, but also I met a very deep Christianity, and our president was not just a participant there, but he was a practicing Christian there. And at this point, I understood what is the reason for his positivity, for his character. The depth in his attitude, I identified this deep Christian faith. Advice. What could I advise you, dear Theodoros? I have a very kind psalm word from the Bible. My mercy is enough to you. That is the advice I would like to give to you. It is in the Bible, 2 Corinthians 12:9. My mercy is enough to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Zsolt. And now I would like to invite from United Left our...
From ALDE.
First of all, of course, from ALDE. Julan Bulay. Julan, the floor is open for you. Yes.
Rare occasions, I could say thank you, Mr. President Zingeris. I really appreciate that. What else can be said after all these beautiful words? What I like about you, Mr. Theodoros, is that you don't think, you think about yourself that you are not an irreplaceable person. That's a high quality of a politician, and you own it. Then I think you are like a star. I mean, coming, shining, then going. And that's correct in politics. Because this is a sad day you are living, but this is also a happy day that will have a peaceful transition of power. And this is the core of democracy, and I like it. And I like it that it happens in the Council of Europe too. Your values during your mandate have been very dear to me and to us liberals, and this is because you've acted with clarity, with commitment, and with openness. And also, on a rather personal note, I have to say that you have broken the mold, the pattern of prejudices towards men above 60 or 70 with gray hair. I mean, you accepting to be a fantastic person, not being stick to the worm chair of a president, and breaking the prejudices towards so many men above 65, 70 wanting to be presidents, chairs, dictators for life. I mean, you shine in opposition. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Julan, for the beautiful words. And our good friend from United Left, George Loudaides, please, floor is open.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Dear friend, dear Theodore, on behalf of the UEL Group, we also extend to you our sincere gratitude. Over the past 2 years, you have presided over this Assembly with integrity, objectivity, wisdom, and clear ability, fostering dialogue and consensus in a period marked by demanding challenges. Over these 2 years, you have said much and done much. As we bid you farewell today, allow me to single out your remarks in defense of our convention. They reflect, we believe, not only your capacity as president, but also your deep commitment to the principles and the values of our organization. In that speech, you have reminded us that when we imitate the extremes, we legitimize them. You warned that without the European Convention on Human Rights, minorities would remain invisible. Love could still be a crime, and Europe would stand without its moral architecture. Your words captured with clarity and consciousness why the Convention remains central to Europe's democratic soul. We thank you sincerely for your contribution, and we wish you every success in all that lies ahead.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Now, Mr. President, the opening floor for you. And we will see you in many occasions in the future, but now is your word and address to us in your capacity of the president, outgoing president, but president.
Thank you, dear Emanuelis. Dear Alain, dear Despina, dear Bjorn, dear Frank, dear Pablo, dear Zolt, dear Julian, dear George, dear Laura, dear ambassadors, dear colleagues, dear friends and family who came from Athens for this very nice and touching moment for me. The first time I entered this hemicycle was in January 1984. I was a young journalist, just 21 years old, and I was placed up there in the galleries, a silent listener. I returned many times after that, either as a journalist or as a minister, and from 2019 onwards as a member of this assembly. And in January 2024, exactly 40 years after my first entrance, you elected me as your president, and you re-elected me for a second term. The circle is now closing, and the journey I have traveled humbles me. Politics, like life, moves in cycles. We begin, we act, and one day we return to the same benches, a little older and hopefully a little wiser. I did not see the presidency as a ceremonial role. I saw it as a political mandate to act and to take initiatives. Since the war of aggression broke out, we placed Ukraine, my predecessor, and you, colleagues, at the center of our moral and political responsibility. And during my presidency, we continued. The network on the situation of the children of Ukraine, which we created, has returned home more than 1,600 children. The registry of damage, which we initiated, gave to tens of thousands of Ukrainian citizens the possibility to record their losses when justice prevails. The International Tribunal for Crime of Aggression, sealed by the signatures of President Zelensky and Secretary General Berset, was not only a symbolic moment, but a concrete act of responsibility. Many of these decisions, dear colleagues, that we took together were initially met with criticism, sometimes even with irony. Silence would have been easier, and it would have been wrong. But today, the greatest threat to democracy is not only oppression, it is silence. The moment when justice becomes familiar and outrage is postponed. That is why this Parliamentary Assembly could not and did not remain silent. Dear colleagues, we don't always agree to each other, and we don't always agree with our governments. The Parliamentary Assembly is not an echo chamber of governments, it is the political conscience of Europe. Pace does not govern, but it tests the moral temperature of Europe. In recent years, we have heard many voices questioning Europe itself. Voices that speak of political, strategic, and even moral weaknesses. In my opinion, Europe is not weak because it hesitates. Europe, if hesitates, it is because it remembers. In our continent, we did not choose power without limits. We chose power with limits. We chose law over impulse, institution over instinct, responsibility over spectacle. That choice may seem slow. in a world driven by the speed imposed by social media. People often confuse rush with importance, reaction with decision, but real life is not scrolling on a screen. Democracy is not a click, and responsibility cannot be reduced to outrage. Europe's strength does not lie in imposing silence, but in organizing disagreement. Not in the rule of the strongest, but in the strength of rules. Not in the cult of leadership, but in the durability of institutions. And this assembly embodies that choice. We do not command armies, we command arguments. We do not govern territories, we govern meaning. In a time when democracy is challenged not only by weapons but also by algorithms, this may be the hardest form of power. But it is also the most necessary one. That is why we proved our relevance not through declaration but through action beyond Ukraine and wherever human dignity was under threat. Through the Victory for Victoria initiative, we stood with journalists who risked their freedom and sometimes their lives to tell the truth. Through the Human Rights in Motion Award, we opened new paths between culture and human rights, reminding us that rights must be lived and felt and not only written in conventions. We sustained dialogue in the most polarized settings, including with both Palestine and Israel. In the Balkans, we upheld democracy, reconciliation, and the European path. We gave voice to exiled Russian and Belarusian Democrats within our assembly. We acted decisively against foreign interference in elections in Romania and Moldova, with timely guidance from the Venice Commission. We strengthened democratic resilience and transparency, leading globally on artificial intelligence by adopting the first convention to prevent its measure against democracy. We advanced responsible use of AI through a high-level parliamentary conference in London. In the same time, we integrated AI tools into the Assembly's website to promote our work with transparency to the people. We ensured the Assembly's institutional role in advancing the new democratic pact with a dedicated committee and clear mandate. We also strengthened the visibility of the Parliamentary Assembly, not for image, but for impact. According to our Communication Office data, the Assembly's international media visibility increased by 65% in my first term as President and by 195% in the second term. This was not the result of publicity tactics, but of political substance, of the decisions you have taken. Visibility became a tool to make our values seen, heard, and understood. We spoke through powerful symbols, bringing the Olympic flame into the hemicycle during the 75th anniversary of the Council of Europe as a message of peace and reconciliation. During my presidency, I spoke in parliaments, to heads of states and governments, and mostly to universities and schools. We need to explain again and again the importance of democracy to younger generations. Democracy is, among others, equality, and I take advantage of this to tell you that just before I entered this chamber today, Despina Hadzivasiliou informed me that this assembly, beginning its work today, is composed equally by women and men. Dear colleagues, in your hands today, you hold the book I wrote to offer insight into how a president of this assembly works on stage and behind the scenes. Most of you might recall that I often speak about ancient Greece. Not to claim ownership to democracy, but to remind us that it was born as disagreement, as dialogue, as a search for measure. But I ask you to remember a simple phrase which I repeated many times. Democracy may be old, but not old-fashioned. Dear colleagues, as Thucydides wrote, what we leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. When we live political life, or even when we step back from positions of responsibility, it is not titles, offices, or formal authority that define our legacy. It is the principles we defend when silence would have been easier. The people we inspired to believe that politics can still be ethical, and the values we helped embed in our common European life. That, ultimately, is the true measure of responsibility. I will close my speech on a personal note. During the 90s, I was a war correspondent at the brutal wars in the former Yugoslavia. But in 1999, I did something even more extreme. I became the first European journalist to be a member of a special training flights for astronauts and flew into the stratosphere in zero-gravity conditions. At that time, I thought I had reached the highest point of my life. You, dear colleagues, proved me wrong, because it was your vote of confidence in my presidency that took me even higher, not in altitude, but in responsibility. And now, dear friends, it is time to leave as I entered this assembly, not through the president's door, but through the door of every member, climbing back to the upper benches and saying goodbye with gratitude. Because what remains is not the title, but the responsibility we shared. Thank you sincerely. Ευχαριστώ, Ελλάδα. Addio.
Now, after this very important moment, saying goodbye to the outgoing president, and thank you to him, I would like to declare election of the incoming president of the Assembly. So our next item of the agenda, you know very well, is the election of the president of our Assembly. So in front of me, I have received two candidatures. The first candidate nominated in line with the existing rotation agreement between Assembly political groups is Madame Petra Byron. Yeah. Yeah. Member of the Austrian delegation and the Socialist Democrats and Greens group. The second candidate is Madame Victoria Tiblom, member of the Swedish delegation and of European Conservative Patriots and affiliated group. Yes? Okay. So the list of candidates and supporting signatures can be found in your document number 3. In accordance with the Rule 15 of the Assembly Rules and Procedures, the President shall be elected by secret ballot if neither candidate obtain an absolute majority of the votes cast as the first ballot. There will be a second ballot, in which a relative majority will be required. 5 tellers, just a moment, 5 tellers, just a moment. 5 tellers representing each political group will help oversee the elections and counting. So, friends, I would like to points of orders. I would like to say that the tellers are from Socialist side, Luz Martinez Seijo. From APP side, Sergei Vlasenko. From Conservative side, Pavel Yablonsky. From ALDE side, Lucia Plevakova. From United Left side, Mr. Berdan Ostjurk. So now we should move to the election of the president. I will shortly open the votes, which will take place in the rostrum behind the president chair. And we have time, actually only 1 hour until 12:50. So the sitting will be suspended until the results may be announced 12 after that, and the Assembly will conclude the other items of business for the first sitting as set out of the draft agenda. The vote is open, and the sitting is suspended. Friends, the point of order is not included in our rules for this moment. It was open for the first one. Thank you.
No.
Just a moment. The vote is open. We are. No, just a moment.
Suspended. We don't discuss.
Yes, sir. We have our rules, and we based on our rules. Thank you. And I understand emotionally you can disagree, but the rules are like that. Thank you.
Have the same right there.
Yes. So thank you.
No.
It's
Closed.
no. I'm sorry, the counting is open, and I would like to close the meeting for the reason that I explain you that we have rules, and we are based on the rules that are in front of me. Thank you very much. Okay. Say for this poor guy, Androsov, he will be, it's enough one day to punish. Dear friends, just informing you that we are resuming the votes. The last friends and colleagues are voting now and ending this queue.
The vote is closed.
The vote is closed and the queue is ended. So I kindly ask you to wait for
15 minutes.
I think 15 minutes, not more, to be counted by our elected tellers. So please have patience, and they're trying to do that in proper way, and we need 15 minutes from now. Just a moment. Wonderful. And after that, so, dear colleagues and friends, I would like to ask you to take your places and concentrate a little bit. Thank you for doing that. I see a lot of familiar faces in all next to corridors, please. Very nice from your side to wait, and sorry for to wait so a little bit longer. So I would like to ask that the sitting is resumed. Election of the President of the Assembly. I would like now to announce the results for election for the President of the Assembly. So.
No point of order.
No point of order, dear friends. So in this case, no. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So I would like to announce the total number of member votes, and the voting number are 217. 217. Number of blank ballots paper 3. Number of spoiled ballots paper 0. Number of votes cast 214. Absolute majority of the votes cast 108. So for Madam Petra Bayer, 164. For Madam Madam Victoria Tiblom, 50. Thank you. So, Madam Petra Bayer, having received an absolute majority of votes cast, is declared elected President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe for this ordinary session. So, I would like to invite Madam Petra Bayer, and yes, and yes. Petra, the floor is for your speech. It's very nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Emanuelis. Also nice to see you. Distinguished ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, first and foremost, thank you very much for your trust, and be assured I will carry it humbly and respectfully. Many of you have known me since 2018, when I first became member of this assembly, and what maybe fewer of you may know is my path that brought me here. I was born in a family belonging to the Czech minority in Vienna, And for some years, I also served on the advisory council for that minority. I myself never learned the language, a personal experience that has always reminded me how fragile cultural and linguistic rights can be, even when they are formally protected. From an early age, civic engagement has shaped my life. As a child, in the age of 9 at primary school, I organized my first strike because I assumed that the teacher did something very not fine, a very, very unfair measure. And also as a teenager, I stood up, for instance, my first activity was to campaign against censorship of pupils' newspapers. And I joined the journalists' trade union. Later, I became active in student, youth, and women's organizations and organized and also helped to organize really big demonstrations in Austria. And I shared it all not for personal reasons or for any biographical issues, but because it illustrates something very fundamental. Long before people enter institutional politics, their daily lives are already deeply connected to the right we defend here in the Council of Europe and especially in the Parliamentary Assembly. The European Convention on Human Rights is not a legal abstract framework. It is a living instrument that affects or should affect real lives, and we must be honest, we are not yet there where we want to be. Today, I stand here for linguistic and cultural minorities across our member states. Their rights are enshrined in law, yet recognition alone is not enough. Diversity must not merely be tolerated. It must be respected, valued, and actively protected as part of a shared European identity. I stand here for all those who defend their rights, whether they are 9 or 90 years old. Every person must have both the right and the real possibility to express their views without fear of repression. The right to assemble, to demonstrate, to mobilize others must never come at a cost of a personal, a professional, or political punishment. I stand here for the freedom of expression in schools, in universities, in public broadcasting, in traditional and in digital media as well. Freedom of expression without censorship and also without self-censorship, without fear, without silence imposed through pressure or intimidation. I stand here for equal access to education. Education is not a privilege, it's a human right. Social origin must never determine life chances. As someone who grew up in a working-class family in Vienna, I know how easily inequality becomes structural and how essential it is that our societies actively counter it. And I stand here for the right of women, for a Europe where women live free from violence, are economically independent, politically represented, and fully heard. And if we learn today that our assembly has now a balanced number of representatives from both sexes, that's really something very, very great. And I'm happy to start in such an environment. Gender equality must not remain an aspiration or the cherry on the cake in good times. It must be a lived reality, always and everywhere, because democracy cannot be complete when half of society is not equally empowered. I stand here before you, but I always stand with you, knowing that I'm surrounded by allies. Allies defending the European Convention of Human Rights, allies ensuring the full implementation of the judgments of the court, and allies in advancing new rights that are still emerging. This includes the right to live in a safe, clean and sustainable environment. It includes protection of democracy from hybrid threats, from disinformation, foreign interference, corruption, intimidation, and attacks on our democratic institution. It also includes our unwavering commitment to political prisoners everywhere, in countries where journalists, opposition figures, and human rights defenders are systematically detained, everywhere where democratic achievements are under increasing pressure, and where individuals are deprived of their liberty solely because of their beliefs. We are united by a vision for a Europe, and I also would add for a world without war. And we are united not only by visions, but also by achievements, our conventions and our convictions. That vision and our achievements are gravely challenged by the Russian Federation's war of aggression against Ukraine. This war is not only an attack on sovereignty of a state, it is an attack on international law, on the European peace order, and on the very foundations of human rights. The atrocities committed in Bucha, Mariupol, or Kharkiv must never be forgotten or relativized. Accountability is not optional, it is an obligation. I want to express my deepest appreciation for all those Ukrainians who fight for freedom and for justice, not just their own, but the freedom of all of us. At the same time, we must not abandon hope. Hope in the democratic forces within Russia and in the diaspora, and in a future Russia grounded in human rights, the rule of law, and peaceful coexistence with its neighbors. We owe that hope to those Russian citizens who face today severe repression for opposing war and dictatorship. And with the newly established network of the Russian democratic forces, we will contribute to a clear vision of such a diverse Russia carried by many unified democratic forces. We must also speak honestly about complex international relationship. The United States, not a member of the Council of Europe and also not a member of the Venice Commission anymore, yet its political actions profoundly affect the global human rights architecture. Human rights are universal or they are not. Strategic partnership must never justify silence in the face of assassination by governmental bodies, the death penalty, or violation of international law. Territorial sovereignty is not negotiable. The 21st century provides no space for a game of monopoly, for the enrichment of a real estate dealer in which power determines ownership. The strength of law, and not the law of the strong, must prevail. The violation of international law by the invasion of Venezuela is alarming, and nothing about Maduro's authoritarian policies justifies kidnapping, the breach of international order, or the disregard for state sovereignty. Greenland is not for sale and cannot be conquered. Greenland is part of Europe, and we stand firmly with our Danish colleagues and friends and will defend sovereignty against any superpower fantasies with legal weapons. The Council of Europe will continue to stand firmly for international law, for territorial integrity, and peaceful conflict resolution. We will also contribute to the best of our ability to efforts towards peace in the Middle East, where, and I think we indeed have to find a different language on that. We had this debate this morning in the Bureau, so that all peoples of the region can live in dignity, security, and self-determination. Another central task lies in the strengthening of the visibility of the Council of Europe. I think all my predecessors who were standing here said more or less the same, but it's so important. Too many people are unaware that their life is under protection. Too few people know that they can turn to the European Court of Human Rights. We must bring the Council of Europe closer to citizens, especially to younger citizens, explaining not only what we are, but why we matter. I would like to implement the 1 hour for the Council of Europe idea or project in all schools, as proposed by my predecessor, Theodoros Rousopoulos, whom I thank from the bottom of my heart what he did for this assembly and also for his personal support. As Paulo Freire said, a politician must be a teacher and an artist while remaining a learner. I think that's also our responsibility. A widely visible Council of Europe includes closer and more strategic coordination and cooperation among our bodies. The Parliamentary Assembly, the Committee of Ministers, the Court, the Secretary General, and all the institutions we have. Together, we can strengthen coherence, visibility, and political impact. Because our conventions and institutions are not legal abstractions. The Court of Europe has a soul, and exactly this soul must touch our peoples. We also face new challenges. Artificial intelligence must serve humanity and not the other way around. It must never become a tool for surveillance, for manipulation or dehumanization. The Council of Europe has a crucial role to play in sharpening human rights-centered standards for the digital age. Together, we will not only defend the Convention, our court and our values, we will further develop them, adopting them into a changing world without compromising the principles on which we were built. Principles forged in the aftermath of war, destruction, and dehumanization, and rooted in the determination that such a tragedy must never be allowed to happen again. Distorting, watering down, or reinterpreting these principles or criticizing the court for translating the principles into judgments that member states must comply with seems to me irresponsible and absolutely unacceptable. Allowing oneself to be driven by populist discussions to question fundamental human rights is simply not acceptable. I want to thank all those here, but also especially those who work every day for the Council of Europe for their commitment, loyalty, and competence defending our values and principles even in harder times. We carry responsibility, and we carry it together. As President, I will pursue a policy of openness, open to dialogue, to debates, and constructive criticism. I look forward to working together with you all in the coming year and will do everything in my power to ensure that the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe remains sure and strong. Thank you very much.
Dear Madam President, I would like to invite you to take the floor and and to chair the meeting. I'd like to say thank you for your patience during morning session and just sharing the flowers.
So, the next item on the agenda is the election of vice presidents of the Assembly. 18 nominations for vice presidents are listed in document AS-INF 2026-01. If there is no request for a vote, they will be declared elected. I don't see since I don't see any request for that, so we come to the next point, which is the appointment of committees. The candidatures for the general committees, including the Committee on Rules, Ethics and Immunities, the Monitoring Committee, have been published as Commissions 2026-01 and Edition 1. Are these proposals approved?
Could you just make the announcement that the meetings of committees now?
Yeah. The meetings of the committees start at 2 o'clock. Or when?
Quarter past.
A 2:15 in the respective rooms, which were announced already. So, before we examine the draft agenda, the Assembly needs to consider 1 request for current affairs debate and 5 requests for debates under urgent procedure. The Bureau has received the following requests: current affairs debate requested by the political groups, safeguarding the system of international justice, an urgent procedure debate requested by the group of the United European Left, ensuring accountability, humanitarian protection and respect for international law in Gaza and the West Bank after the ceasefire, an urgent procedure debate requested by the Committee on Social Affairs, Health and Sustainable Development, 65th anniversary of the European Social Charter, an urgent procedure debate requested by the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, threats against the international order, the case of Greenland, and an urgent procedure debate requested by Mrs. Victoria Diplom, bringing democracy back to our Assembly, an urgent call to reform the election procedure of the President of the Parliamentary Assembly, and urgent procedure debate requested by the political groups, political crisis in the broader Middle East, the need to protect human rights and the rights of all minority groups. At this meeting this morning, the Bureau decided to change the urgent debate, and quote now the new title, Ensuring Accountability, Humanitarian Protection and Respect for International Law in Gaza and the West Bank after the ceasefire, to a current affairs debate. The Bureau then decided to recommend that the Assembly hold the following current affairs debate: 1 on ensuring accountability, humanitarian protection and the respect for international law in Gaza and the West Bank after the ceasefire, and 1 current affairs debate safeguarding the system of international justice. The Bureau also decided to recommend that the Assembly holds the following urgent debates: urgent procedure debate, 65th anniversary of the European Social Charter; urgent procedure debate, threats against the international order, the case of Greenland; and urgent procedure debate, political crisis in the broader Middle East, the need to protect human rights and the rights of all minority groups. Is this agreed? I don't see any objections. The Bureau's recommendation is accepted. The current affairs debate safeguarding the system of international justice will take place this afternoon. The current affairs debate ensuring accountability, humanitarian protection and respect for international law in Gaza and the West Bank after the ceasefire will take place on Wednesday afternoon after the communication from the Committee of Ministers. The urgent debate, 65th anniversary of the European Social Charter, for reference to the Committee on Social Affairs, Health and Sustainable Development, debate will be held on Thursday afternoon. The urgent debate, threats against the international order, the case of Greenland, for reference to the Committee on Political Affairs and Democracy, will be held as our first item of business on Thursday morning. the urgent procedure debate, political crisis in the broader Middle East, the need to protect human rights and the rights of all minority groups will take place on Thursday morning as the second item. If there's any objection to the agenda, which I do not see, then we can adopt the agenda for the first part session of the 2026 ordinary session. There is a point of order. Please.
Regarding the schedule of the debate on the proposal for a ban on conversion practices. This item is currently placed on the agenda on Thursday afternoon. Given the sensitive and socially significant nature of this subject, I believe it would benefit from greater attention and a fuller presence in the chamber. For that reason, I propose to move this debate to the next plenary session and to schedule it then earlier in the week so it can be given the consideration and seriousness it deserves.
Okay. Somebody who wants to speak against, Mr. Schwabe.
Hello. Mrs. President, maybe it's a good occasion to congratulate you from our group. Thank you very much. So for sure, we have a very important debate, a lot of important debates, and this report is very well prepared. And I think it's good to discuss it this week. It's necessary. It don't make sense to postpone things who are sensitive. So I'm against this proposal.
So we will have a vote. There was a proposition to follow, to change the order of the agenda and to debate the transversion practices already earlier on the agenda. I remind you that on a motion to alter the draft agenda, the only members who can be heard are the mover of the motion, one speaker against, and the spokesperson of the committee or of each of the committees concerned. That means that is the mover of the, no, she's not here. So that we just come to, we hear the pro and we hear the contra argument, so then we come to the vote. Those of you who are in favor to change the order, as we hear as the proposition, shall vote with yes now, and those who would like to stick to the draft agenda we have it now and to stick to the place of this debate should vote with no. I declare the vote open. The vote is closed. Can somebody display the results, please? So that means that the order of the agenda stays as it was. Then we come to the adoption of the minutes of proceeding of the Standing Committee. The minutes of the meeting of the Standing Committee in the Republic of Moldova on the 21st of November 2025 have been distributed as per document as per 2025 PV 02. I invite the Assembly to take note of these minutes. I don't see anybody who is against that. Thank you very much. Then the Assembly will hold its next public sitting today at 3:40 with the agenda which has approved just now. The sitting is adjourned. And for the first time I do this.